Welcome to our channel, a place where shadows meet storytelling and secrets unfold beyond the veil of comfort. Here, every heartbeat becomes a drum of suspense, every glance hides an untold truth, and every silence carries the weight of betrayal. Tonight, we invite you into a story that blurs the line between survival and conspiracy, a tale where loyalty turns to poison and salvation masks a darker intent. This is not just entertainment, it is an immersion into the fragile fabric of human trust. Doug was supposed to be dead. That was the unshakable truth everyone carried with them as the ambulance screeched into the hospital bay. The wreckage of his car was mangled beyond recognition, steel bent like brittle branches, glass glittering on the asphalt like shattered stars. The flames had threatened to consume him, to erase every trace of his existence. Yet fate had intervened, or rather, Randy had. He dragged Doug out of that fiery cage, his arms scorched and trembling, lungs choked by smoke, his body smeared with someone else's blood. He was hailed as savior. To every onlooker, Randy had done the impossible. But salvation is never free. When Doug's eyes fluttered open in the sterile white of the hospital room, he did not look at Randy with gratitude. His lips trembled, dry and cracked, and from them escaped a name. Not Randy's. Not the name of the man who had risked everything to bring him back. Instead, it was something else, a name half swallowed by the taste of blood, a name that did not belong in that moment. And before Randy could demand clarity, Doug's body convulsed, the monitor above his bed screaming with erratic rhythms. A sudden plunge into crisis. Doctors swarmed, their voices sharp and urgent. And the secret died on Doug's lips. Randy stood frozen, watching not just a man fighting for life, but a web of deception tightening around him. He was no longer the hero. He was a pawn, trapped in a game he hadn't agreed to play. The man he had saved was tethered to a secret, a truth too volatile to survive in daylight. Eva arrived soon after, her face pale, her steps unsteady. She touched Doug's hand, as though that fragile contact could restore what had been broken. Yet her heart quaked. She had heard enough in the hallway, just enough to know that her trust was a lie. Doug had not called for her. He had not called for Randy. He had called for someone else. And in that instant, Eva felt herself cast into the shadows, abandoned in a marriage built on sand. Outside the room, the night deepened. Rain tapped against the hospital windows like fingers drumming out a warning. Randy leaned against the wall, his fists clenched. The world had expected him to be relieved, even joyful, that Doug was alive. Instead, fury seared his veins. Why had he been dragged into this? Why had he risked everything only to be spat back into confusion and humiliation? His mind replayed the crash. The sudden swerve, the shuddering impact, the fire erupting like a beast unleashed. Accidents carried chaos, yes, but this had felt calculated, too precise, too inevitable. Doug's car had not simply failed. Someone had failed it for him. The thought coiled inside Randy like venom. Someone had wanted Doug dead. Someone had tampered with that vehicle, stripped the screws of safety, planted death in the engine's heart. And Doug knew. He knew who it was. That name he had spoken, that was no hallucination. It was the truth clawing its way out of him, silenced before it could survive. Eva returned home alone that night, drenched by the storm, her reflection fractured in the glass of her front door. She had always believed love could weather betrayal, but now she was unsure if she had ever known Doug at all. If he was hiding something, then everything they shared was counterfeit. Her tears came not from grief, but from rage at the thought that she had been a placeholder, an ornament in a life Doug had filled with secrets. Meanwhile, Randy could not rest. He wandered the sterile corridors, his mind replaying every detail. The screech of metal. Doug's gasp. The faint syllables of that unspoken name. It was not gratitude, it was confession. Randy realized that in saving Doug, he had prolonged the lie, preserved the deceit. And now, he could not undo it. He could only unravel it. Doug drifted into unconsciousness, lost in feverish nightmares. Behind his closed eyes, memories surfaced like jagged fragments. The night of the accident was not an accident. He remembered the shadowed figure by the car, the metallic click of tools, the coldness of betrayal etched into their face. He remembered locking eyes through the windshield as his car veered into chaos. He knew who it was. He knew what they wanted. But terror muzzled him, even in dreams. Some truths were too lethal to name aloud. Days passed in agonizing silence. Doug remained on the cusp of life, tethered by machines, while outside his world grew darker. Eva's suspicion thickened with every hour. She began to search his belongings, uncovering inconsistencies, phone calls at midnight, unexplained absences, a drawer of documents that hinted at alliances she had never known. She realized she had been sharing her life with a stranger. Each discovery carved deeper into her heart, until love curdled into suspicion and suspicion into fury. Randy's obsession became his anchor. He followed every thread, speaking with mechanics, questioning witnesses, revisiting the wreck. He discovered traces that did not belong, bolts loosened, brake lines tampered with. This was no malfunction. It was sabotage. But the more he learned, the more he feared the answer. Whoever had orchestrated this was close, too close. The darkness did not lurk at the fringes. It lived among them. And so the tension coiled tighter. Doug lay voiceless, Eva unraveled with doubt, and Randy festered in wrath. Each of them bound by that missing name, that single truth clawing beneath the surface. Each waiting for the moment when it would erupt and consume them. Then, one night, Doug stirred. His lips parted, breath rasping through cracked lungs. His eyes fluttered open, wide with terror, as though he saw the specter of his saboteur standing in the room. Randy leaned forward, desperate for the confession, while Eva gripped his hand, torn between hope and dread. Doug's mouth shaped the first syllable, his body trembling with the effort. A sound escaped, a whisper, faint yet razor-sharp. The beginning of the name. And then the monitor flatlined. The room erupted in chaos once more, doctors surging, alarms shrieking. Randy felt the world slip from his grasp. He had been so close. The truth had been at the threshold, ready to step into the light. And now it was dragged back into the abyss, buried beneath silence. Eva collapsed against the bed, her tears mingling with the sterile sheets. Randy stood apart, his body trembling. He realized something chilling: whoever had orchestrated this, whoever had pushed Doug to the edge, had succeeded in silencing him once again. And that meant they were still out there, watching, waiting. Perhaps even smiling. The storm outside howled louder, the wind battering against the hospital walls like fists demanding entry. Inside, hearts shattered. Trust collapsed. And the secret remained, venomous and alive, coiling itself tighter around the survivors. The story does not end here. It begins now, in the ashes of a confession never spoken, in the silence of a truth too dangerous to name. Doug's death may not be the end, it may be the spark of a greater unraveling, where every bond will fracture, every mask will fall, and blood will demand more blood. Because the name he carried to the grave will not stay buried forever. And when it finally rises, it will not come alone. The betrayal is only beginning. Stay with us. The darkness deepens from here. Subscribe to our channel, and do not look away when the gates finally open.